What do you make of Mary Macleod's suggestion for a new law?
That it's bogusly egalitarian. It's bogusly egalitarian because what it's trying to do is slot an interest group, the females, into a privilege which currently is the property of another interest group, the males.
And what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that, providing you say that that's what it is. What I object to is dishonesty in politics.
Are you being dishonest, Mary Macleod?
Absolutely not. I think that's the most outrageous thing I've ever heard. I mean, the interest group, as females, I mean, we're half the population. And it seems ridiculous that in the 21st century, that we don't value women as much as we do men. And that's the basis for it.
And don't you value women as much as you value men?
I value them enormously. I've been married twice. If that isn't an example of valuation, I don't know what it is.
Well, we'll let you use that as a measure of your commitment.
I point out that in the aristocracy, daughters of earls get better treatment than the younger sons of earls. They become Lady Mary, Lady Jane, Lady Anne, whatever it is, whereas the younger son is the on Galahad Threepwood, as your P.G. Woodhouse readers will know.
Well, are you saying then that somehow this bill doesn't cover enough of the complexity of what happens in terms of aristocracy and handing down titles?
Excellently put. It doesn't appear to cover the problems of the baronets, who outnumber the peers, the hereditary peers, by about 1.5 to 1 or 2 to 1.
But does that matter? I mean, surely what Mary Macleod is suggesting is a good start.
If she wants to make women, give them a leg up, as it were, in terms of ermine and titles, then surely she should go for the even bigger group of baronets.
Why don't you do that, Mary Macleod?
I'd be very happy to include the baronets within it as well, to be honest. And this is not a leg up for women. This is just fairness and equality. It's why should just boys, men inherit? And I just sort of feel as though nowadays, when you have more than 50% of girls graduating from university, girls are doing better than boys at school, let's just have a bit of equality and fairness and say it's the firstborn who inherits. And I think that just says that society has moved on. And frankly, if the monarchy can do it, and the Queen is already, she's way ahead by allowing by having the Crown Succession Bill going through. So, you know, it's time for change.
It's out of touch discrimination, isn't it, straightforwardly, and you're backing it.
My objection also is that it's another form of discrimination, which is that the poor old younger sons and younger daughters get the short end of the stick. Age discrimination is just as evil, just as wicked as sexual discrimination. I suffer from age discrimination myself, so I speak with particular feeling on this.
You're using that as an excuse to mask what is clearly unequal and unfair.
Life is unequal and unfair. If these ladies want to go out and get ermine about their shoulders, let them go and dangle for peerages, like Anne Widdecombe is probably going to do.
Michael Dobbs, whose side are you on?
Well, as a Conservative, did I mention that I was a Conservative, as has become obvious? But
we mentioned it, and you are welcome to mention it again.
At the heart of that is not equality, that's a socialist nostrum, but equal opportunity. You cannot discriminate against people on the basis of what they were born. Now, if you're going to have an hereditary system at all, and there's a question about that, but if you were to have an hereditary system, I think it's impossible nowadays to justify it in terms of we can only have one sex and not the other. There are real practical problems. The principle is very simple. There are real practical problems. If you have brought up your family, your daughters and your sons, to say that when I die, this is the way that it's going to be, and that is the life that they have become accustomed to, it's very difficult then to turn around and say, no, we're ripping this all up and we're changing it all. So there are practical problems in doing what Mary's suggesting, but in principle, it must surely be right in the 21st century.
And I think it's a principle that it will end up being very, very symbolic. But this affects only a few people. But symbolically, I think it's something that we need to address, because it's saying, actually, nowadays, we should have men and women having the same, as you were saying, Michael, the equal opportunity, whether it's to succeed or opportunity at work, that should be allowed.
Or abolish hereditary peers, all of them.
Well, I think that's a separate
peerages
debate.
to the whole population. That's the best equality.
What was that?
Give peerages to the whole population. Make everybody a duke who's a male and every female a duchess who's a female.
But you're using the egalitarian argument in a bogus way, I suggest, to try and prevent something that appears to be fairly natural and inoffensive.
Equality is the most pernicious inheritance of the French Revolution. It in practice inhibits freedom. It in practice inhibits the liberty which is its brother, according to the French Revolution.
But I think we're talking equal opportunity rather than equality.
But where do you start your opportunity, Michael? Where do you start your opportunity, and where do you stop it?
Whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're gay, whether you're straight, whether you're a man or a woman, you know, that's where you start, at birth.
Right.
That's what I would suggest.
What about the practical difficulties that were raised there by Michael Dobbs in terms of being raised to expect a title, and then all of that is taken away from you with this new bill?
Well, there are ways where you can implement the bills, so you can make part of it voluntary or voluntary for this generation, and then it changes for the next generation. There are different ways in which you can implement it to make it easy for us in terms of transition. But I think you will find that the majority of hereditary peers will support this because they feel that it is time for change and that we shouldn't be discriminating against girls.
And it's not just titles. We are talking about some quite complex property laws
Yes,
and things like that. It is a
and
very
there is an
complex
expectation.
area.
Well,
Yes.
there is an expectation, as you said, if you have been brought up to expect to inherit that estate and it is taken away, then that will have problems. But then, wouldn't that happen every time you try and change laws in this way?
There's a lot to be said for evolution in these things rather than revolution. And I think that the principle has to be clear, and it is clear. But whether we get there right now or whether we phase it in, I think is an issue which we should discuss.
Is the bill actually going to get anywhere?
Well, 10-minute rule bills, private members' bills don't often get anywhere. So potentially not, but it's something that we can fight for behind the scenes because it isn't current government policy. It's something that I just feel personally about. I feel very strongly on it. But it's something that certainly I can try and persuade as many people as possible to support, and then we can do something on.
But not you.
Not me. I'll help you if you want. If you come to me and I'll give you some technical advice, but purely on a business basis.
So we can work together.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you are,
Come round
cooperation.
neatly at the end of it. Thank you
I
both
prefer
very much.
cooperation with together.